Hello dear subscribers and watchers, what's up? This is Vivs from slidenerd here. In this video, I'm going to talk about variable scope in Java. So first question, what is variable scope? Variable scope means the lifetime of a variable. In other words, if you declare a variable somewhere in your code where you can use it and where you cannot use it. So let's talk about that. First, let's talk about the scope of local variables. Now if you guys remember, there are three types of variables: local, parameter, instance variables. Now of course there are other types, but these are the three main types that we have, and I have already talked about this in an earlier video. If you guys haven't seen that video, please check the links in the description text below. So first, scope of a variable is the part of the program where the variable can be accessed. In other words, keep all the scope minimal. Now this is a good programming practice that you have. Minimize the scope. Now at this point, if things look completely bleak to you, don't worry. Let's take an example and try to see exactly what the scope is all about. Here I have a process method that takes a double array. Well, the method, what it does and how it works is none of our concern right now. Let's talk about this val variable over here. It's a parameter variable. Inside that I have a for loop. If you notice carefully, there's an int I equals to 0, I less than 10, I plus plus, usual stuff that we do all the time. I is a local variable declared inside the for loop. Again, if you see the if condition inside that, if I say double x is mat.random, then x is a local variable declared inside a for loop. So our question about scope is about determining the life of each of these variables, or the parts of the program where these variables can be used. Now if you take a look at this orange colored box over here, that represents the complete method between the starting bracket and the ending bracket. This val parameter variable can be used anywhere within the entire block. Outside the block, if you try to access it, it's gonna give an error. If you talk about int I, which we have declared over here, int I 0, it's a local variable declared inside a for loop. Its lifetime is within the for loop. In other words, within these two brackets of the for loop, you can access or use I anywhere you want. Outside the for loop, if you try to access it, it's gonna give an error. If you take a look at x over here, again its lifetime is within the if condition that we have here. Outside the if condition, it doesn't matter where you are, but this x variable will simply not give you a value. Now remember, two local variables can have the same name as long as their scopes don't overlap. Now let's take a look at this. There's a main method, if condition, else condition. Again, don't bother with what this condition is trying to do. Let's just focus on the variable. So I've set int y equals to 5 here. Now if you remember, int y is 5 is declared inside the if condition. Its lifetime is just within the if. Again, if you go to the else part, I've set int y equals to 4. First question, is this valid? Well, it's perfectly valid, because here the y equals to 4 has a lifetime only within the else block. In other words, these two are treated separate because their scopes don't intersect with each other. But if you take a look at the same example, slightly twisted, if I say int y equals to 4 inside my main method, now remember, this is accessible everywhere inside my public static void main. If I have an if condition like if true, and then if I say int y equals to 5, now this is invalid, because in this case int y equals to 4 has the entire red colored block where it can be used. But if you take a look at int y equals to 5, it has this blue colored box within the if condition, within these two brackets where it can be used, and the red box and the blue box intersect each other, right? Clearly this blue colored box itself is the intersection of these two different boxes out here. Hence, you cannot have the same variable name inside the if condition. Either you simply say y equals to 5 and use this, reuse this variable that you declared above, or you simply give it another name by saying int z equals to 5. Now those are the only two options you have left over here. Otherwise, the first scenario is perfectly fine. So now let's talk about instance variables and static variables and their lifetime as to where they can be accessed. I have a class student, static string ID, and then there's the string name over here. If you don't know what static means, don't worry, we'll be talking about it in the playlist. So if you go and have a print info method, now remember one thing, these variables, they are the static ones and the instance variables, they have a lifetime throughout the class, which means they can be accessed anywhere inside any method, anywhere inside the whole class. Of course, there are some exceptions to the static ones, but then we'll be talking about that in a separate video when we talk about static variables and static methods. So let's talk about instance variable shadowing, which is another effect that is noticed about scopes. So when an instance variable and a local variable have the same name, what happens? The first question I have for you guys is this. There's a class student, there's a string name equals to Vladimir. This is an instance variable very clearly, right? Because it's inside a class. Now if you have a method over here which is print info, and inside that if I say string name is Makarov, is this valid? Well, the first thing is this is perfectly fine because this is an instance variable, this is a local variable, and you can always have local variables and instance variables with the same name. It is only two instance variables or two local variables that cannot have the same name. So here if I say system.out.println name, what do you think will be printed? Well, if you notice, within this method, this variable string name equals to Makarov has a scope represented by this green colored box over here. So when you print it out, if you notice this other one which is string name is Vladimir, this has the purple colored box over here which is the scope of this variable. In other words, within the class brackets you can use string name is Vladimir anywhere, but within only the method brackets, string name is Makarov is the one that takes priority or precedence over the other one. So now when you print it out by saying s.printinfo, output is going to be Makarov because this is the variable which is of prime concern or importance right now. So that at that point the string name is Vladimir, which is the original instance variable, is hidden by string name is Makarov. So how do you show both of them if you want to show? So let's talk about that, how to deal with overlapped scopes. So for the same example where class student name example Vladimir and the name is Makarov inside and outside, I have system.out.println name over here. This time I use a special keyword called this over here. Now I have talked about this in my previous video. If you guys haven't seen it, please check the links in the description text below. This keyword represents the value of the current object with whom this method printinfo is working. In other words, if there was an object O and you called printinfo on O by saying O.printinfo, this keyword will be equal to O at the current moment. So when you say this dot name, it's going to be O dot name, which is the instance variable over here, Vladimir. So now let's take a look at this. There is string name is Makarov, whose scope is by this green box. String name is Vladimir, whose scope is by the purple box. And when you use the same output, name will print Makarov, but this dot name will go outside this green box and find this Vladimir and print that over here. So it's like saying string name is Vladimir and then Makarov tries to hide it, but using the this keyword you unhide it and bring Vladimir out. So this is exactly how the this keyword works to resolve instance variable shadowing. Again, we have already discussed about this in the previous video. If you guys haven't seen it, please go back and check it out. So hopefully you guys have understood something about how shadowing works and how variable scope works. If you like what you saw, please like this video, share this video, subscribe to our channel, and let us know your thoughts in the comment boxes below. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a nice day.